The law, the Ten Commandments, Seventh-day Adventists say that the law was not nailed to the cross, that it is for us today. But yet, how does that work? If we're sinners by nature, we're sinning constantly, which means, if I read my Bible right, sin is the transgression of what? The law. So it means we're breaking the law constantly. How can you have the law that you're breaking constantly as anything meaningful at all? So questions arise about the law. And there, of course, is the Sabbath, right in the middle of the law. How can we make that central if every Sabbath keeper is a lawbreaker 100% of the time? And Sabbath keeping is still impossible if the law can't be kept. Up to the top of the tree. Health issues. Well, that is obviously sanctification. That's not justification. So if sanctification is not part of the gospel, then how can health be that important? I'm going to read a couple of statements on this point. God's salvation is so extravagant, so comprehensive, that it can't be increased or diminished by what we eat, drink, or wear. Did you catch that again? Can't be increased or diminished by what we eat, drink, or wear. Exercise and a good diet contribute to a long and useful life, but they don't add to our salvation. Well, let's not make such a big issue of it. Why is that? It may not be so important as we thought it was. After all, it's a sanctification, not a justification issue. It's not a salvation issue.
Okay. So, perfect demonstration how a truncated view of sin leads to a truncated view of the law. Comments on that?
Well, the whole thing about the law being nailed to the cross, again, that is not Orthodox Christianity. Show me one historic creed or confession from any denomination that has the law being nailed to the cross. And as we've discussed before, this whole concept of the law nailed to the cross is really based on a faulty translation from Colossians chapter 2. What was actually nailed to the cross was our sin debt, not the law.
Yeah, and I'm going to save my comments on that just because he goes into that more later, and so I'll bring up some more about that then. But yeah, it's just like, oh my goodness, man, like don't say the mainstream Christian, because by gospel he means teaching. So we need, because again, spoiler alert, folks, he's never going to present the gospel. He never gets into the gospel, because by the word gospel, he's using that synonymously for system of theology, or a certain teaching. And he's going to say, like you mentioned earlier, that if God revealed it, it's a salvation issue. And so we'll get to that then. But it's just, show me the mainstream Christian confession that says that. You're responding to like bad arguments from 20th century Western Christendom, where there were people who, individuals saying these sorts of things, but you're not going to find a mainstream Christian confession that's saying the law was nailed to the cross. It's just, they love that. And so if you're a former Adventist, if you're trying to engage with Adventists, please do not use that argument. I'll bring up something later in regards to that, but something else is being said there, and it actually completely destroys Adventism, because it destroys the investigative judgment in 1844. If you understand what's actually being said in Colossians 2, there's other places to go to in Scripture to talk about not being under the law covenantally. All right, but now he's going to go into standards. So remember, we're still in the fruit here of this mainstream Orthodox Christian gospel that's influenced Seventh-day Adventist pastors.